So with that, let me introduce our keynote, Elham Tabassi. She's the Chief AI Advisor and Associate Director for Emerging Technologies at the Information Technology Laboratory at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. She leads the NIST AI Innovation Lab that aims to cultivate trust in the design, development, and use of AI technologies by improving measurement science standards, related tools in a way to enhance economic security and improve quality of life. She's a principal architect of NIST fingerprint image quality, an international standard for measuring fingerprint image quality, which has been deployed in many large-scale biometric applications worldwide. She's also served as the Technology Laboratory's Chief of Staff. Elham serves as US government's AI Standards Coordinator and has been a member of the National AI Research Task Force, a senior member of the IEEE, and a fellow of the Washington Academy of Sciences. In September 2023, Elham was named Time Magazine's as one of the 100 most influential people in AI. I had the pleasure of working with Elham on the NAIR task force, and it has been a delight. Thank you very much for being here, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Manish, for those kind words. So if you have ever been fingerprinted to coach a soccer or basketball for your elementary school, middle school children, or coming to US through the airports, that's where the NFIQ has been used. So if you have ever been sent to do another fingerprint, that's my fault. You know where to put the blame. Yeah, such a gorgeous day, fall day in Utah. I really like that the city is hugged by this mountain, so it's really pretty. And I'm delighted and honored to be here with you, talk a little bit about the work that we have been doing when I figure out, okay, how to work this thing. And I'm delighted and honored to be a part of this external advisory board, and what a great initiative and what an important set of activities. I'm going to talk about some of the work that we have been doing, and I'm going to take you back a few years ago, and I'm going to close with some of the things, some closing thoughts on the things that we can do as a community, particularly research community. NIST, or the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is a non-regulatory agency under Department of Commerce. It was established in 1902 to basically fix standards for mass, length, and all of those important measurement that was crucial for the technologies at the turn of the century. And we are continuing doing that, doing the advancing measurement science and standards for what's the basis of the today's technology. Our mission statement to promote U.S. innovation and industrial competitiveness has been our mission statement for the past 120 years, and NIST has a very broad portfolio of research, from building the most accurate atomic clock to measuring and modeling the behavior of the wildfires. We do a lot of research across NIST, but most importantly, we have a long tradition of cultivating trust in technology. And we do that by advancing measurement science and standards, measurement science and standards that make technology more robust, more reliable, more private, more secure, in other words, more trustworthy. And that's exactly what we have been doing in the space of AI, except that it's a lot more difficult in the space of AI for a lot of reasons that we will be talking about, and you all know. So back in 2018 or so, there was a lot of discussions about ethical AI, about responsible governance of AI, and there were a lot of high-level value-based documents that have been coming out. There were so many of those that the center in Harvard actually tried to categorize them and study them. And yet, by all of these very important documents, important discussions, it was not very clear that if you are a researcher, a developer, a deployer that wants to use AI, exactly what we need to do to get to trustworthy, responsible AI, what constitutes trust, how we can go about for designing trust in our systems and assure that they are implemented in the development and the deployment. And that's where the AI risk management framework comes in. Directed by congressional mandate, the mandate came to us on January 2021 and giving us 2 years for developing a framework for managing the risk of AI. AI RMF is a flexible, structured, and kind of measurable set of guidelines for AI risk management framework. I know that there's a lot of words here. What I'm trying to say here is that we sort of, again, working with the whole community, find the right balance of coming up with something that's very detailed, at the same time flexible to allow for technology to adapt to the changes in the technology, to technology developers to innovate and still be able to manage the risk of AI. Structured in a way that, as I will be talking about this, try to bring the community on a set of shared understanding of what do we mean by risk, what do we mean by trust, what constitutes trust, what are the sources of trust, and who are the all actors involved in the AI, different stages of the AI life cycles, and what are their roles and responsibility. And then the other attribute, the attribute of being measurable, is very much near and dear to our hearts as a measurement science agency, because really at the end of the day, you cannot improve things that you cannot measure. So if you really want to improve the trustworthiness of AI systems, we ought to have a good handle on being able to measure them, which again starts by understanding what these are. So I'll talk a little bit about each of them. And I think these are really kind of important lessons that we learned as we were developing AI RMF, which, by the way, it was developing close collaborations and consultations with the community. Everything that we do at NIST is that way. We have a really good scientists at NIST, but we also know that we don't know all of the answers. So we bring the community together as you're doing today. We reach out for inputs, we collect inputs, we distill them, and then get them into the work that, incorporate them into the work that we're doing. In development of the AI RMF, we try to actually move past just engaging technical domains and disciplines, those that are involved in technology development. This is skills such as computer science, mathematicians, statisticians, but also reach out to the community that study the impact of the technology, psychologists, sociologists, cognitive scientists. So it was really nice to see the list of the people involved in this initiative at Utah State, at Utah University of Utah, that is very diverse. The first part of the AI RMF tried to get the community on a shared understanding of the definitions. I just put 2 here to make 2 points. One is that we made sure that we built on top of the work of the community. And I think that's really important. As we have more and more initiative, it's important to bring all of them together and leverage the work. So that's the definition of the AI systems. And as you see, we didn't define AI. That's, as you know, open discussions within the community for the past 60 plus years. But the point that I want to make is a definition of risk. Again, building on the definition that has been provided in some of the ISO documents adopted by the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, and some of the NIST document. The definition of risk, which becomes the basis for the risk management, the way we went about this in AI RMF, is a composite measure of an event's probability of occurring and the magnitude or degree of the consequences of that event. So the consequence can be positive, negative, or neutral. That means that the risk management becomes simultaneously about maximizing the benefits while minimizing the negative consequences. And I think that's a really important approach and sort of a kind of the fork from many other risk management discussions across the globe. For example, the EU AI Act. So with that, we also talked about the challenges in risk management. And I think there's a lot of possibly research topics here One is that measurement of the risk is difficult. When it comes to the AI, some of the risks are not known. And even if it's known, we don't know how to measure them. We don't have a good handle on how to measure bias as a holistic. So yeah, there has been a lot of work at NIST. We had to look at the demographic disparity for the facial recognition as one measure of bias, but bias in AI is more than just computational and statistical bias. It has the element of systemic bias and cognitive bias. So it's important to have a holistic view of the bias and be able to measure all of them. Ditto many other trustworthy characteristics that we will be talking about them. While in the AI RMF, we talk about the different type of trustworthiness characteristics, and we kind of loosely use the risk and trustworthy characteristics as the two sides of the same coin. We talked about what are the risks, what are the trustworthy characteristics. We get a little bit into the discussion on how to measure them, but we stop at giving any guidance or prescribing how safe is safe, how private is private, or basically what are the thresholds for the systems to be secure or private. And the reason for that is AI systems are all about context of use. If I'm using face recognition to unlocking my phone, or using face recognition to, if you have done airport screening, our face now is our boarding pass as if we get into the plane, or face recognition are being used as part of the law enforcement kind of activity. There ought to be, as you can imagine, different level of privacy, security, accuracy involved. Even for the accuracy, the trade-off between false negative and false positive has to be carefully curated to the applications. If I'm using face recognition, unlocking my phone, I want a low false negative. I get bothered if my phone doesn't allow me to unlock my phone. But if it's for law enforcement applications, we want a very low false positive because we don't want to put innocent people or accuse innocent people. The other two, I go quickly over them because they are most important to the organizations implementing risk recognition, but there might be some research element on the prioritizing risks. So it's often the case that we cannot optimize reliability and security and privacy and bias of the systems all at the same time. Trade-offs exist that needs to be understood and needs to be carefully computed and carefully made the decisions about them. But also when you're doing risk management, thinking about the applications, some of the applications that has been mentioned, that state might be implement that resources are limited. So it's important to sort of identify and prioritize what are the most important risks and how to do them. And then the integrations of all of the risk management. So each enterprise, hopefully every enterprise has a risk management processes, and it's important to kind of integrate AI risk management into that. So at NIST, we had put out cybersecurity framework that talk about managing the risk of cybersecurity. We put privacy framework that talk about managing the risk of the privacy. So how to bring all of these things together and have an integrated approach for risk management. Another really important topic that we learned in consultation with the community and has been incorporated in the AI RMF is that what we really are after is a culture of responsible AI practices and uses, and that's more than just technical solutions. AI systems are socio-technical in nature. They are more than just a data compute and algorithm. They are a complex interactions of data compute and algorithm with the environment that they're being operating in, humans that operate them, humans that are being impacted by that. So it's really important to have a socio-technical approach to this and understand all of that, and go for instilling and cultivating a culture of responsible AI practices at all of the stages of the AI lifecycle. While we were developing AI RMF even today, we get a lot of asks that, can you give us a checklist? And we really wanted to avoid that because we don't want to minimize the all of the thought process on understanding the risk and measuring and managing those risks into a checklist that just check the boxes. So with that, I told you that, again, the first part of the AI-RMF tried to provide a structured approach to understanding the risk and trustworthiness. And Manish mentioned this. So while there were a lot of documents that talks about what are the characteristics of the trustworthy AI systems or what are the risk of AI systems, while we were developing this, again, with the help of the community, we came up with the 7 characteristics. And then immediately after the release of the AI-RMF, UC Berkeley put out a mapping of many of those documents that exist to the 7 documents. You will see that we intentionally put a valid and reliable as sort of the base, because you want the systems to function as reliable as possible, as in the way that it was intended. But beyond that, we want the systems to be safe. And at the time of the release of the AI-RMF, we use the definition of ISO, International Standard Organizations for Safety, that talk about harm and negative consequences to physical and emotional state for the humans. I know that the conversations about safety has evolved since then and kind of expanded, but I think this might be a good idea to actually have a good conversations about what safety of AI means. Secure and resilient. So this is beyond the cybersecurity practices. I'm sure you're all familiar with the different vulnerability of the AI systems. The famous one back in, 2019, 2020, Microsoft put a research out that putting a post-it note on a stop sign confuses the AI systems, while the human brain can easily filter that as a noise. So there are multiple ways for adversaries to sort of, through the data poisoning, inference attack, and many other different attacks to either get the AI systems to do what they want to do or evade the systems. Again, I'm sure that you're familiar with this. This goes back maybe to 2018. Researchers at maybe UPenn or Penn State, just take the name of university out, but they showed that they can design glasses and use the 3D printers to print out the glasses to sort of full face recognition systems, not just to let you in, but actually to make it to believe that, yeah, I'm somebody else. Explainable and interpretable, a lot of conversations about this, and we try to unpack these 2 concepts. What is explainability and interpretability? Explainability becomes explaining all of the parameters of the model, architecture of the model, the way it works. That's a lot of information, but maybe only useful to people that are developing or debugging the systems. But interpretability becomes about the context of why and how the model did the predictions or recommendations. And that becomes really important because already there are laws on the books that requires interpretability of AI models. For example, if a loan application is denied, there should be explanations or interpretations back to the persons that the loan applications was denied. If AI systems are being used to make that decisions, then they should be able to get them to explain that. Privacy enhanced, again, you had seen a lot of research that shows that the large language models memorize the data. I think some research came out of the Google back in 2020 or 2021 that showed that by careful poking to the systems, the training data can be revealed. So if the training data is patient data, you can see how important that can be. But just recently, with the ChatGPT and some other large language model, we saw that research has been done that if you get the large language model to repeat the same word again and again and again, after some number, 100 or so, they start basically blurting out the training data, including email conversations that has been used for training the models. So what are the privacy enhancing techniques that can be used at the time of the training? So for each of these characteristics, instead of thinking about of course, measurement is important, but thinking about to measure and then through the policy and other interventions, make sure that the systems is responsible. What if that we have a good handle on how to actually instill and embed and design these characteristics into the development of the system? So you probably have heard, and I know in some government circles, people roll their eyes on this, but security by design, privacy by design. But what if we start thinking about all of these things at the time of the design of systems and include techniques for example, privacy enhancing techniques to improve the privacy of the systems? The bias, we already talked about this, about the going just beyond the statistical and computational bias and think about cognitive biases, confirmation bias. We all process the information differently. So how that manifests itself into the bias of the systems, or systemic biases that are all basically baked into the society organization norms. And when you get a best statistical representation of the data, you're getting the representations of those biases, and those biases will find their way into your systems. Back in 2022, we put a report out towards standards for bias in AI, special publication 1270, that talk about some of the things that I mentioned. And just last September, we put a document out, Terminology and Taxonomy for Adversarial Machine Learning, that basically talks about the different adversarial attack on AI systems. That document is NIST AI 100-2. You see that we like to call everything by numbers at NIST. And then we put the accountable and transparent, because it's about AI systems, but it's also about the process of the design, development, deployment, and use of AI systems. And transparency, we think, is really important. And the way we define it is basically the documentations of what has been done, what decisions has been done, on what basis, what testing has been done, what data was used to make that testing, how the decisions was made based on the results of testings. You are familiar with the data sheets for data sets, model cards, and all those. We wanted to kind of expand it. And as you can see, with the model cards coming out, we are getting less and less information about how those models are working. So we're working on advancing standards, and I think that's a very important thing, to advance standards for transparency documentations. Another important topic is that risk management is a shared responsibility for all of the AI actors involved in AI lifecycle. So we put an AI lifecycle out, again, built on the AI lifecycle in some of the OECD documentations. And you would see that we put the people and planet at the center of that, because at the end of the day, the risk management becomes maximizing the benefits for people and planet while minimizing the consequences of the systems, negative consequences of the systems on those. And the document talks a lot about the AI actors involved on the different stages of the life cycles and their roles and responsibility on AI risk management. And a lot of also emphasis on continual monitoring, data shifts, model drift, all of these things can happen. AI systems can be adaptive and learned by interactions by the users and environment. So risk management is not something that we can do at once and put it aside. With all of those things, AI RMF gets into a total of 72 recommendations categorized in 4 high-level functions of govern, map, measure, and manage. Govern talks about the roles and responsibilities, basically the embedding that you need, the processes and procedures that needed for an organization to actually be able to do risk management. Map give recommendations and guidelines on how to actually understand who is involved, who is being impacted, what are the risks are involved. Measure aims to provide quantitative or qualitative guidelines on measuring the risks identified during the map functions, and manage functions get all of those things and come with recommendations on what to do. And sometimes what to do is deploy better models or do some changes in the systems, or we cannot use it, or just accept the risks because the risk of not using the AI systems is bigger. We also put out a series of helpful, hopefully, resources to help with operationalize and implementation. So the point I'm making is that doing the research, solving a problem is good. Putting out recommendations to actually how to implement the results of the research is good. But there's also going to need to be another step that provide the tools, benchmarks, data, infrastructure that can help with operationalizations and implementation of that. So as you're thinking about the research and as this initiative is thinking about what needs to be done, I think it's really important to figure out how we can actually make them actions into the work that has been done. I quickly say that AI RMF playbook is where all of those informative resources in terms of standards, other documents that can be used. And I quickly talk about the crosswalks. At the beginning, I mentioned that there's a lot of the documents, high-level value-based document that was existed in 2018. The trend continues. We see more and more document coming out. And then what we try to do with the crosswalks is do the crosswalk between sort of a semantic mapping between AI RMF and those documents that comes out. That includes the OECD AI recommendations, EU AI Act, AI verified from Singapore, the AI governance coming out of the Japan, trying to make sure that the community have a good handle of how we are moving forward. These things we think is good, and that's why we're doing it, but hopefully we can all start focusing the energy and ingenuity of the community on one sets of activities so we can be more focused and have more impact. So AI, I mentioned that it's all about context, and AI RMF is trying to be technology agnostic, sector agnostic. So how can you have a good risk management that's trying to give recommendations for managing the risk of a technology that's very highly context-based. At the same time, we want it to be technology agnostic. Well, we decided to have a hybrid of horizontal and technical approach. On horizontal, which becomes the AI RMF, again, is that shared understanding of what are the risks, having the same definition of bias, is it financial sector or health or educations or climate, as the three initiatives we learned this morning. But then build the verticals or instantiations of AI RMF that basically slant all of those guidelines into the particular use case, into the particular context of use, because at least, for example, the regulatory and policy landscape can be different for all of those. So there is a multitude and spectrum of the different profile and use cases that we can develop. The one that I want to, and some of this profile has already been developed. For example, Department of Labor developed a profile of AI RMF for inclusive hiring. State Department developed a profile of AI RMF for human rights in AI. And we, as part of AEO, the deliverables, developed a cross-sectoral profile of AI RMF for generative AI. At the time of the AI RMF, release of AI RMF, we also put out a roadmap, basically everything that we didn't have time to touch on and address, but also the other works that needs to be done on AI RMF. The first three, you would see that it's alignment with the international standards, expand test evaluation, verification, validations, and development of the profiles is what we focus our effort in the first year. But you would see that there is a lot of other things on better understanding of the nature of the human AI teaming, to better understand the trade-off among the different risk factors or trustworthiness characteristics. But also being able to measure the effectiveness of AI RMF. This has actually worked. What else needs to be done? I will, in the next few slides, I will talk about our efforts in the first three activities. But before moving forward, I just want to say that the end goal of all of these things is that we want technology that works, technology that's easy to do the right thing, difficult to do the wrong thing, and easy to recover if somebody intentionally or maybe even unintentionally did the wrong thing. That goes back to what I was trying to say, that how we can actually design in those trustworthy characteristics into the design and development of the AI systems. And standards and evaluations play a really important role in this. So about the standards, we are all familiar with these 3-pin plugs that we see all across the room. It's almost impossible to use them in a wrong way. And by doing that, a lot of physical danger and harm is being removed. With the past, decades of the internet and social media, how many times we have heard that it's the user's fault that they didn't have strong password or they didn't need what to do. We're trying to basically change all of that. We want the technology that's easy to do the right thing and difficult to do the wrong thing. And let's try to get that for the AI systems. So with that, most of our efforts is really focused on advancing through the NIST mission standard and measurement science that makes AI technologies more reliable, easy to use, and in the right way, and difficult to do the wrong thing. We used AI RMF and the roadmap that you saw as sort of our North Star in building and maturing the measurement science. But we don't know much as a community on how to evaluate AI systems. These things are difficult to do because majority of the testing that's being done today at best are spot checking. The model testing, at NIST, we had decades of experience on evaluating biometric systems, from face recognition that you may have known us for FRVT and others, to information retrieval and search engine, the annual TREC workshops. And I kind of like to say that we have a good handle on the art and science of doing those evaluations. When you take the algorithm, the model, the systems, bring them into the laboratory setting, run test data through them, get the outputs of the systems, run the analysis with the metrics that has been developed and tried out by the community, and then plot many different, fancy plots and make statements about the accuracy or reliability. Those type of model testing, those type of evaluations are not enough for AI systems because we are not only interested in the aggregate results of the accuracy, and we are not only interested on just accuracy. We, even for the broader term, we want to know if the system is valid and reliable. Testing of the bias, we just talked about it. We have a good handle on how to do by the different disparity in the demographic and some of those, but how can we do the measurement of the cognitive biases and systemic biases? How do we measure the interpretability of the AI system? So what I'm trying to say is that we don't have a good handle on the scientific underpinning of the AI evaluations. And this is something that we have been trying to work with the community on, building the right building blocks that we can use them in writing the guidelines, on getting them into the design and creating the test environment and evaluation, sort of an iterative cycle of working with the community on devising and revising of the metrics, advancing the infrastructures and the things that NER is doing to help a broader ecosystems of research and hopefully also test and evaluations to get a better understanding on the science of the AI evaluations, and then again building those building blocks that we can advance them. Once we get a better, when we do those activities and get better understanding of those building blocks, taking them into the international standards and develop standards, international standard based on that, because AI systems, just like data, just like many technology, they don't know border. And I think it's better for the whole community, for the global community, to have a interoperable, harmonized sets of standards for testing. And we want to do these things beyond that, just research. Research is really important, but create the test environment, conduct evaluations, build empirical evidence that's needed to advance the field forward. Again, at NIST, many of us are, some of us actually, not me, but a lot of us has this quote from Lord Kelvin kind of on their wall that says, you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So really, to be able to advance AI systems, we have to have a good handle on how to assure and evaluate AI systems. So AI RMF was released on January 2023. Roadmap came up. We were working with the community immediately after the release of the AI RMF. So you know that ChatGPT 3 came out in November 2022, AI RMF January 2023. ChatGPT 4 came out in February 2023. So the first question we got from community, we were scratching our head that is AI RMF really actually applicable to this explosion of the large language models. And we ran several webinars with experts in the community, and they all said that, yes, the building blocks is sort of looking forward enough that it can be applied. We put a generative AI public working group together to study the application of AI RMF to generative AI, but also start by actually looking at the risks that are unique to generative AI or exacerbated by generative AI. And we were also thinking about how to evaluate AI systems that in October 30th, Executive Order 14110 on secure, safe, secure, trustworthy AI came out. Several tags to many, many agencies, including us. It asked us to develop guidelines for safety, security of AI systems, guidelines for reducing synthetic content, guidelines for developing secure software development, a global engagement plan for advancement of the standards. And I like to say that it really expand and bolster activities that we have, because it gives us unforgiving deadlines of 270 days to do all of those works. So what you see here is sort of the deadlines that the EO had given us, and I'm super pleased to say that anything on June 26 and July 26 has been delivered. I will very quickly talk about some of those things. So one of those tasks to us was develop a cross-sectoral profile of AI RMF for generative AI. We based on the conversations that we had with the Generative AI Public Working Group. Something about 2,500 public volunteers joined us in end of June, beginning July of the 2023 to help us think about the risk of the AI RMF, generative AI RMF. And of course, we do a lot of interactions through requests for informations and listening sessions and the workshops that we put out. And all of the, just make sure that I have time, and all of the comments that we receive, we put it out on our websites, a measure of transparency and accountability on our site. So what profile does, it lays out 12 risks that either unique to generative AI or exacerbated by generative AI. I'm not going to read through all of them, but you can look at them, and I hope you nod your head and said that, yeah, that's about it. And it talks about sort of what each of them mean, but also we have already started a work around advancing how to measure some of those. So I will later on talk about an event that we have tomorrow and the day after tomorrow in DC area, trying to advance some of these, some of this. For example, the last item on value chain and component integration. So the generative AI is just a complex integrations of a lot of softwares, right? So how do we actually look at and what are the role of the different actors in the AI value chain? Well, what is AI value chain, by the way? We have software stack. We don't have AI stack. Do we need something for that? So at a panel on, I believe Tuesday, tomorrow afternoon, we have expert talking about this partnership on AI put out in a month ago, some sort of a draft for the value chain. They don't call it AI stack. But start working on those. Again, this all goes to having a better, clear accountability understanding. You see environmental impact here, and I'm sure you heard a lot about this. It's good to see climate as one of the first three pillars of this new initiative. But also we are more and more seeing number associated with electricity consumptions or water consumptions with a prompt for the training of the systems, but also for every time that you give a prompt. Or maybe even, I think I was reading some article that was saying that comparing the energy consumptions of a prompt to large language model versus a simple search. Well, what are the scientific basis for those numbers and how to measure them, how we should measure them? So we have a panel talking about this, again, addressing this from a measurement angle. I'll be happy to talk with any of these things with you during the break or later today, or maybe anytime you have a question about this. But in interest of time, I'll just move on to the next topics. I forgot to also mention that after the executive order came October 30th. It was a Monday. That was an eventful week for the AI community. UK safety summit happened during that week, where Vice President Harris announced establishment of the U.S. AI Safety Institute housed at NIST. So as we were working on the EO, we were also working on establishment of the Safety Institute. And then a day after that, Secretary Raimondo, Secretary of Commerce, announced establishment of a consortium alongside the Safety Institute to basically expand our NIST capacity on working with the whole community. We are a tiny agency. Our AI team is really small, so consortium and working with the community allows us to expand that. So I mentioned about the panel at our workshop, but we have already started some work through the consortium on operationalizing the profile. Another tasks that we had, another very important topic, and I saw one of the news topics that Manish put, was around information integrity. Well, I think that was in the context of election. I want to say that we don't do anything with election, just for the record. But information integrity is really important. One of those things is the risk of the synthetic content. So we put out a document out for public comment. The final document should come out in a month or so, and try to provide some sort of taxonomy on the broader topic of the digital content transparency. Again, going back that the people use the same term meaning different things, and sometimes in with high ambiguity. You know, in the a lot of conversations, not in the research community, synthetic content detection and authentications is being equated to watermarking, and use the watermark to talk about the whole space, which is not. So we put this sort of a taxonomy out, talking about provenance data tracking, synthetic content detections, the different techniques using for that, and also a lot of emphasis that, again, the solution is not just technical or technology solutions, and educations and what all the platforms can do play a big role in minimizing the risk of harm of the synthetic content. So there is a lot more work to be done in this space, which when starting by finalizing the document, and we look forward to working with the community on that. Another document that I want to talk about is, and I'm really excited about this, is a global engagement in AI standards. Again, standards play a crucial role in any new emerging technology, but particularly in the space of AI, where regulators and policymakers are looking at the standard as sort of grounding and a solution to the different policy solutions. Regardless of the regulatory or policy landscape, we do need standards, because a lot of the conversations that are not being clearly hashed out in policies discussions comes to the standard. The laws can go and say AI must be safe or non-discriminatory, but stay at that abstract level. They don't get to say what we mean by non-discriminatory. We saw that in case with the in New York, that at the end, the discussions about non-discriminatory AI, where it should really be in the hands of AI assurance and AI evaluations, becomes the discussions in the courtrooms. So we are really excited about this document, and what this document really tries to say is that standard development is not just go to the standard meeting and write the documents. It needs to be preceded by a body of foundational work on building the right technical building blocks, having that scientific underpinning to make sure that we have standards that are scientifically sound. And then by bringing going to that process of consensus building around the globe, we actually try to get some global, diverse global stakeholder involved and get solutions that work for the whole globe. These things becomes really important, especially when the discussions becomes on value-based AI and alignment, because the values differs different part of the world. The expectation of the privacy differs at the different part of the world. And then also talks about the importance of the whole process be open, transparent, consensus-based, and building international relationship. The plan also talks about and try to give guidelines on the priority of standards that's needed, because if you look at some of the standard development organizations, such as ISO Subcommittee 42 is working on this, IEEE is working on a lot of this, there's a lot of activity. But really what we need, and trying to have a more strategic approach for this. So we are in the on Wednesday, the 9:30 panel on AI standards. We are really excited about this because we are going to announce working with the whole community on basically building this is a very technical term, super duper base graph that a good standard can be based on that. One of the, not criticism, but one of the concerns with AI standard development is that, for example, civil society find it very difficult to navigate the process and find how they can be engaged and make impact. So we are going to build that convening and working with the community. So we're going to start by first picking some topics for standard development. Right now, the two topics are bias in AI. The two candidates are bias in AI and security of AI, but we are open to any other topics. And then we try to do this in a matter of 4 to 6 months. And if we do this very well, then maybe we can also skip some stages in standard development, so cut down the standard development process from 3 to 5 years, maybe to 2 to 4 years, which is going to be great if we can do that. So that's in 2 days. NIST had put out a secure software development framework about 2 years ago, and EO, the executive order, asked us to basically build a companion document for development of software for generative AI. Again, generative AI systems are software and data systems at their core, but their risks are beyond that, just the risks to traditional data and information systems. In AI RMF, we talk a lot about this. In the interest of time, leaving some time for questions, I move on. We also put out 2 initiatives for testing out. One is ARIA, assessing risk and impact of AI systems. This goes back to what I said, that to expand the spectrum of testing beyond model testing and try to, through the model testing, you get a good grip on what are the capability of the systems. But that needs to be augmented by stress testing or red teaming to try to inform us on the risks that can happen, what happens at edge cases. But that also needs to be augmented by testing, we call them field testing, where AI systems is being used in the context of, in their native context of use, to understand what are the impact of those risks. So the testing that we have today maybe can give us some understanding about the capability and limitations, but do not answer the risk and impact. So I was just talking with David before that. It took us about 2.5, 3 years trying to scope this test as narrow as possible so we can actually do something. And we hope that we got it right. We even said that we can't accept more than 5 submissions because the testing is going to be really resource intensive. We also put out, so ARIA is going on. I think the submissions, registration for submission ended. It's going to go into full testing in October. And there's a workshop on November 12th, I believe, to basically talk about the ARIA with the participants in the test. We have a community. If you are interested, you can sign up and be part of community and receive information about this. Another test initiative that we started, I should also say that both of them are umbrella program. That means that there are going to be different tracks. They can grow as the creativity of the community and the resources that we have can grow. This one is on evaluating generative AI. We started by a simple sort of a discriminator generator test. There are 2 tracks: submission of algorithm that can generate synthetic text based on a text prompt. We look at them to see how realistic those texts are or not. Realistic in terms of the, sorry, I should have phrased it better, how close to a human-generated text they can be or not, and the discriminator track that gets a piece of text and decides it was AI-generated or human-generated. So you can see that they can basically compete with each other. That test is ongoing. There's a leaderboard on our website that you can look at it, and we are going to add a text-to-image component to that soon. I already mentioned that in pursuit of community building, we do workshops, and we have one tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. This is the agenda of many of the, I think all of the We need speaker release forms. We need the panelists to consent with recording and putting the presentations out. But I believe we have consent from everybody, so the recording of that will be out. You can ask us as many questions as you want. And this is how you can get a hold on us. I'm going to just spend another minute or so and just give some sort of a closing thoughts that are really aligned with everything that we read, including some of the documents coming out of the PCAST on the things that we need to do. They may seem simple as we see it on the paper, or as I will tell you, but each of them becomes a really technical challenge. So when it comes with AI, I think we all agree that there is a lot less we know that we should. We don't know how the systems work. And that is a big challenge for building evaluations and assurance around them, and also building trust around them. So we need to get a better scientific understanding of how these models work. We need to be able to better understand and identify the different risks of the AI systems. And I think by thinking about the taxonomy of the risk, it can give us a structured way of attacking that problem. But we also need to be able to understand how to measure risk and impacts of AI systems to people and planet. And moreover, what are the safeguards? What are the mitigations techniques that needed to have? And by the way, what is the robustness and efficiency of those safeguards? How easy is to jailbreak and basically get rid of those safeguards? We really need to do what this initiative is about. Use and strengthen and expand the use of AI as a scientific discovery tool in many disciplines of the science. Try to revolutionize what we can do in healthcare, in climate, in educations, going towards more individualized educations, precision medicine, the solutions for the climate, so we can basically give a better planet and a better future to our children. We need to bring and increase the diversity, and I think many issues that democratizations make it easy for everybody to participate in the process, and bring more diverse background perspective into this. This is really interdisciplinary domain, and we really need inclusion and thoughts of the community that study the impact of the technology to help us chart a better way for the future on what we need to do in this space. And then we have to nurture our international engagements on the things that we need to do. The solution cannot be regional or local. And the more at the smaller scale, like at this initiative at Utah State, that we can move to action, build and generate empirical evidence on the things that work and does not work, gives us better understanding on the gaps that exist and how to address those gaps. So by that, thank you so very much. Again, congratulations on starting this initiative. Look forward to all of the progresses made, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Elham, for a brilliant talk. We have time for questions. We have mics here, so we'll walk down to you if you have questions.
Is there any question there?
Back there.
Can you start? You bet. So I'm Denise Farnsworth. I work with the state, and I also consult on privacy and security in AI. I noticed on your risk framework around Gen AI that you did not list the loss of human work. So I'm just curious why.
Yeah. Thank you. I should have mentioned that. I'm glad that you asked. So I will rephrase your comment to impact on workforce, that you don't see it there, and open source software also, you don't see it there. I shouldn't say open source because it's not really open source. Models with weights publicly available. And I think our document mentioned that there are already some, where I was working on this, some initiative happening across some of them, Department of Commerce, for example. Our sister bureau, NTIA, was working on the risk of models with weights publicly available. So we decided not to step on their toes and talk about that. Similar thing with the workforce, that there are different parts of the government thinking about this. Those are definitely, we have been very honest to say that this needs to be revised as we learn more about this. So at NIST, we don't, I think I mentioned that we don't want to we don't have the authority to come with any sort of assertive or regulations. And the topic of the impact on the workforce, is it loss of work or better work or generating new work, is a topic under considerations. That's why we didn't put there. But absolutely, we're following that, and hopefully when there is more work across the government, we'll open it for revision and add that. Thank you.
I thank you very much. One of the questions I have, I really love your framework and how you're talking about risk. How do you conceptualize it? With risk, you can assign probabilities of potential outcomes, but in a world of uncertainty where we can't assign any probabilities because we just don't even know what's coming around the corner, like how are you anticipating that, or how do you think about it, how do you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you. These are the topics that we hope the community help us address them. So that was what you asked, if I can rephrase it in a different way. So you said uncertainty, and at NIST, uncertainty measurement on a measurement is a big topic. So I think you are using uncertainty in a different meaning, which gets to measuring the impact, right? So these are the questions. So this is the AI systems. What are the risks can arise from them? What are the risks that have the probability of those risks actually happen? And then when those actually happens, materializes, what are the impact on the people, right? So ARIA is trying to sort of get a better handle on that by, during the model testing, get some notion and idea of the capability. The red teaming, if designed well, can help us understand what are some of the risks that can happen, and then, or the prevalence of the risk that can happen. And the field testing try to actually measure the impact of that. What you ask is it really the heart of the problem and difficult to answer, but yeah. There's also a question from the online. Yeah.
So can you check them? While we're getting to the online question, are there any other questions?
Yeah, right here.
Oh.
So I'm in the cybersecurity world. We're working in the CMMC space, trying to help people get there. We're behind right now in the AI, right? As far as regulation or guidance and the things that NIST is trying to do. What do you see as the challenge with that? Because in the space that I'm seeing is that we're already seeing those types of AI attacks and things, and the level of expertise that's out there is already impacting so much of what we're doing. So how far behind do you think we really are, and how much does that put us behind, in the big picture?
So in terms of being behind, the pace of changes of the technology is vast. The scale and speed of this is very difficult, so make it a lot more difficult. I think in your question, I also sense a being behind in policy and regulation compared to the world. I don't know about that because, again, this is a non-regulatory. Anything I'm saying has to be understood in the context of the NIST being non-regulatory. Any good regulations, any good policy needs to have the right enforcement. That example that I said about non-discriminatory, right? Or the UAI Act says that we want these things to happen. And by the way, go and build standards for these things to happen. So the act is going to go into effect without having the standards, and standards cannot keep up with that. So are we behind in regulations, or we're spending more time to build the right scientific foundations for those? Our job at NIST, that we take it very serious, is to build that measurement, necessary foundations for measurement assurance for that. Going back to your particular questions about cybersecurity, So there's a lot of these conversations about use of the AI to improve the cybersecurity, but AI systems comes with its own vulnerability. What I'm trying to say is that we are trying to, and the whole community, I think, are trying to do these things as fast as we can. So the secure software development companion to the SSDF can be helpful. The document on adversarial machine learning that I mentioned can be helpful, and more work on continuation of that work, and also harmonizing, at least on this side, CSF, cybersecurity framework, privacy framework, and AI framework to how to apply it. Cybersecurity risk management for AI systems is under work. Bottom line is that I usually say this, that in the past 3-4 years, us at NIST and the whole community are sprinting a marathon, but we have to sprint faster.
Hi there, Dave from University of Utah. It seems like there's a venerable alphabet soup of agencies that are promulgating regulations or suggesting things. Is there going to be anyone who's going to play traffic cop? Because there are numerous industries that are party to numerous masters. Let's say healthcare industry, where you have HHS, you have CLIA, you have FDA, you have state agencies. Everyone is kind of promulgating regulations or suggestions, some of which are mutually contradictory. Is anyone going to just kind of step in and say, this is how we're going to do things, and these are the slices that people are going to work in?
Good question. And there's a lot of other people more knowledgeable to answer that question than myself. But let's just say that a year ago, 18 months ago, in government circles and some of the congressional hearing that I participated, the question was, do we need to have one agency that does regulations of the AI? I think the conversations has changed a little bit, recognizing that, as you said, there are many agencies that are already having regulatory power in healthcare, in transportation, in many different areas. So is it better to actually equip them with what knowledge and resources and tools they need to leverage their regulatory power in that space? And that's more or less gets back to what I was trying to say, a horizontal approach to the risk management, to give the to avoid the non-alignment and definitely the contradictions that you mentioned, which I don't know if they exist today, but trying to make sure that everybody work on the same basis of concepts of an understanding of what risks means, what trustworthiness characteristics is, and then try to get the interpretations of those elements of bias, security, privacy within the context of use, which we call them the vertical. So it seems that that's where it's going, and we are happy to work with a lot of different parts of the community within government or outside on building this vertical profile. So I mentioned 2 of them that are out there. There are several more being developed. Financial sector really wants us to work with them on a profile of AI risk management for financial sectors. We just got very busy with the EO and others. So not quite an answer, but just saying that that's where the conversation is going. I see the participant, but I don't see the. Yep. Is it Christian? Oh, actually, I go to him, right?
Yeah.
And then what do we do?
Because
Ask him to talk. Yes, we unmuted. Unmute.
Can
I ask my question? Can you hear me?
yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks for a wonderful talk. It was very interesting. Currently, the large language models basically give us answers, but they don't give us any level of accuracy of those answers. And I think we've all experienced using them that some answers are more accurate than others. I'm wondering if you have an estimate, or if it'll even happen, where these answers will come with confidence intervals. You know, what confidence do we have in these answers, rather than just a here's an answer?
Yeah, great questions. And it would be great if they can provide confidence score. And then we need to also have an evaluations and assurance program to make sure that that confidence score is also correct. You're right. They are just giving an answer. And sometimes I'm sure you all have played with LLMs enough that if you ask LLMs that, are you sure that that's the right answer? And sometimes it say that, no, I'm not, or maybe it's wrong. Great question. But beyond the model itself give a confidence score, can AI evaluations and assurance that try to touch on the accuracy of the model also provide an uncertainty measurement for that? So these are some of the topics that our researchers, our scientists at NIST are working at NIST and with the broader community.
Yes, Beatrice Knudsen, University of Utah. Thank you for a wonderful talk. And I was wondering whether you are addressing the degradation and drifting of algorithms as we're moving forward, because populations may be shifting. I work in the healthcare field where treatment recommendations are a very moving target. So there's a lot of opportunity for these algorithms to actually drift away.
Right. Thanks for bringing that up. And I think that's one of the main reasons that we recommend continual monitoring of AI systems in the AI RMF, exactly for the reasons that you mentioned. So how we are going to do that? Let me just go back to that slide, right? So in this slide, we talk about the continual monitoring exactly because of the reason that you said that AI evaluations, risk management is not something that you can done once. And then talks about ARMF talks about depends on the risk, depends on the factors that you mentioned. There must be AIRMF recommends coming up with a cadence, a frequency for the continual monitoring, and it can be months or weeks or years.
Okay. We have time for one more question.
Hi, David Stringfellow, State of Utah. In this framework, are there standards surrounding auditability? Like I work in the government audit space. And so we have a lot of rules on what people have to retain with these Gen AI systems. They're not always repeatable. Is there anything contemplated where you'd be able to keep track of what the systems are doing in the past?
Thanks for that question. So I mentioned that NIST is a non-regulatory agency, and the word audit does not appear. Maybe it is in some of this, right? We were very careful for that. But it talks about, but if you're talking about the tracking of the results, the actions that has been taken, that gets into the transparency requirements. So in the AIRMF playbook, for each of those 72 guidelines, we provide suggested actions that the users of the framework can take. We provide informative annexes that they can use. And then for each of them, we also talk about transparency recommendations on what to document, how to document, if there are standards for documentations. Now, the other part of your questions about the period for retention, that again becomes the context of the use things. And I should also mention that for the map functions, the first recommendations is follow the laws. And that always make me laugh because we don't need a recommendation to say follow the laws, but apparently the different laws and regulations for AI systems. So based on the context, if there are laws in this context, follow the laws. I said that the audit does not appear because, again, our job is to build the technical and scientific foundations for any of these actions, from certifications to conformity assessments to audit, that they can happen in a more to the questions that ask in a more interoperable, harmonized way. So we don't have financial sector doing something different, healthcare doing something different, including definition of risk or bias or any of those.
Thank you. We have one question online and then we'll stop.
Hi, I'm Alice Schwartz from the AI Policy Office at the Department of Commerce, and I was very interested when you were talking about that you're planning to measure the impact of the AI RMF going forward. And this seems like an incredibly complex and difficult thing to do. So I was wondering how you envision going forward on that.
So shout out to the Department of Commerce. Thanks for tuning in and asking questions. So, right, that's a really important thing, right? And Manish may remember that when we were working on NAIR, a colleague of us, Julia Lane, a economist professor at NYU, from the beginning drilled that in our head that you are not going to write anything if you are not thinking about how to measuring the impact of that. And then introduced us to theory of change that economists used a lot, that at the beginning of each effort, they think about the inputs, activities, outputs that's going to be used or generated as part of this work, this effort, and then outcomes and another thing that I don't remember, to basically be able to go look back and see if this effort achieved the goal that it was designed for. So since then, I convinced Julia to come and advise us on. I told her that we are building all of these things and putting this document out without really, we know that we want to measure their effectiveness, but to be honest with you, we don't know. We are a bunch of, computer scientists, engineers that know that side of the equation better. So very soon, we are working, you're going to see that very soon, but Julia has helped us, not for the AI RMF, but we frame it in the bigger conversations about the standards, because you can ask the same thing about standards. A lot of standard documents are being developed, but are they actually doing what they were supposed to do, having the impact that they were supposed to do? And NIST has a advisory committee, visiting advisory committee, VCAT, and NIST director gave them a charge on standards to give some guidance, to give some advice to NIST on how to do standard. And one of them, in the report that they wrote, which is posted on our website, you can see that they said, well, we need a way to be able to measure the impact of the standards, which is very similar to being able to measure the effectiveness of the AI RMF. So we have been working with experts in this field, trying to figure out how to apply the concepts in the theory of change and broader economics to get to that point. So stay tuned. You will hear from us and see some documents soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elham, for a brilliant talk. Let's join me in thanking Elham again.